Do you ever want to dive deeper into the Bible, but you just don't know where to begin or struggle to feel like you even have the time? When you read the Bible, do you get frustrated because you know there is so much more in there? You just have no clue how to get it out. Or maybe you just want to know the Bible better and you're looking for any resource to help. Well, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Context and Color of the Bible podcast. We are two sisters. I'm Erica.
And I'm Veronica.
We love to study the Bible and help others understand it better. When it comes to our own study of Scripture, we have found that in bringing back the context of Scripture, it adds so much to our understanding. It actually adds color to the black and white pages of the text. All right, Veronica, let's dive into chapter 4.
Yes, because this is such a good, I'm so excited for this chapter. It's like, you know what? I think it could go long. So I want to make sure we have time.
Deuteronomy 4 is considered like the heartbeat of the book.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay. I don't have that in front of me, but
I feel like when I've studied Deuteronomy, that's one thing I read.
Well, truthfully, if I could, I would just have you read every single verse in this chapter.
Okay. So, yeah.
But I'm not going to. We will be a little bit conscientious of time. But with that, will you read verses 1 through 5?
Sure. And now, Israel, listen carefully to these decrees and regulations that I am about to teach you. Obey them so that you may live, so you may enter and occupy the land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to or subtract from these commands I am giving you. Just obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you. You saw for yourself what the Lord did to you at Baal Peor. There the Lord your God destroyed everyone who had worshipped Baal, the god of Peor. But all of you who are faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today, every one of you. Look, I now teach you these decrees and regulations just as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may obey them in the land you're about to enter and occupy.
Okay, thank you. So right away, we have Moses talking about laws and rules. You're going to see those two words, whatever your translation uses, throughout statutes, rules. What did yours have in verse 1?
Regulations.
Okay.
Decrees.
You're going to see that throughout. And one of the things people always struggle with is, on the one hand, we're trying to explain these laws so they make sense. But when you do that, you almost give a rationale for the laws. So then people go, oh, well, I understand it. So it's no longer valid. I know why God's, the whole kosher food thing. If we could completely understand it, well, I know why God said not to eat that because it's a bottom feeder and it has trichinosis. And I'm making this all up. But, it's not healthy. Well, once we go, oh, I understand it, it in a way takes away the motive to obey. But on the other hand, you can't just go, well, I can't understand it, so I'm not going to try. You're in this between a rock and a hard spot of I should understand it, I need to understand it, but I won't always understand it. Does that make sense?
So either way, obey.
Either way, obey.
Whether you understand it or not,
yes.
It's not wrong to wrestle with it.
Right.
But don't think you'll ever get to the bottom of it.
Right. Okay. We need to try to understand God's laws to better understand him. And that is definitely one thing I keep seeing is as I go, oh, I see what he's doing here. Now I see this characteristic of God. And so in verse 3, you have, I pushed my notes up too far. You have that idea of followed after. And it's literally in the Hebrew, walking after, and it's a biblical idiom for apostasy. Since Israel must follow only the Lord, they're taking ancient Near East political terminology where you would walk after your king, meaning you give him allegiance. So walking after another god essentially means you're defecting from the Lord. So Moses said in chapter 3, the Lord your God destroyed from among you all the men who followed after Baal. I don't know what your version said.
In chapter 4?
Yeah, verse 3.
Verse 3, who worshipped.
Okay. So depending on the Hebrew there is
actually walk.
Is walking after.
Which totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to see that because you're supposed to. I love that idea of walk after the Lord. If you're walking after him, you are following him. You're doing what he's called you to do. You're showing your allegiance.
Which is still the way they talk about it today, walking with God.
Mm-hmm. And so then verse 4 says you need to hold fast. And the Hebrew word behind that you see in Genesis 2:24. Do you know what that chapter's about?
Yeah, Adam and Eve.
A man shall leave his father and mother.
Oh.
And cleave. It's that same. It's the modern Hebrew word for glue.
Oh,
so
that's
it's just
interesting.
Moses is describing you should hold fast to God like you do your spouse, or like you're supposed to with your spouse. Like
glue yourselves together, in other words.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which just keeps that idea of, okay, Israel, and Moses keeps saying of, if you obey, if you want life, your life depends on obeying the covenant and observing these commands. So keeping the covenant is always a present decision. It's not, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing next year? Right now, keep the covenant. Right now, obey God's commands. Because if I do it today, I'll probably do it tomorrow. And if I do it today and I do it tomorrow, chances are I'll be still doing it. And you just hear Moses' passion in this chapter of obey, choose life. And what I love is we talked about last week how Moses desperately still wanted to go into the promised land. And look how he refers to God in verse 5.
The Lord, my God.
Yes. Even though he doesn't get to go, and he just said that like probably 30 seconds ago, but it's still my God. You're still seeing this strong relationship Moses has with the Lord until the end. So now will you read verses 6-8?
Obey them completely, and you will display your wisdom and intelligence among the surrounding nations. When they hear all these decrees, they will exclaim, how wise and prudent are the people of this great nation. For what great nation has a God as near to them as the Lord our God is near to us whenever we call on him? And what great nation has decrees, regulations as righteous and fair as this body of instructions I am giving you today? That is a verse we need to memorize as a church, because
I mean, this is where I go. These 3 verses, 6, 7, and 8, it's just like, okay, if you obey God as a nation, how are you going to look to the rest of the world?
they'll think you're amazing.
Yes, which Israel is to be called. I mean, the prophets keep saying a light to the nations. And you go, Israel, this is how you do it. God lays, God, this gets me excited. God lays it out so perfectly. Here's what you need to do. He's not hiding it from them. He's not making it impossible. If you just do this, you are going to stand out from the crowd.
Because God has hidden himself from this world. We are to show the world what our God is like. We are to be God's representatives on this planet. Israel, that's been their call from day one. Mm-hmm. You are to be a light to the nations. And sometimes they get close, and often we always fail. That's part of being a people group. But that is their calling still to this day. They are to show the world what their God is like.
Mm-hmm. I know. So to me, I go, okay, you want to memorize some verses?
Get those.
And as you struggle with these laws, come back to this. Even if it doesn't, this is where I say, even if it doesn't completely make sense to you, the point is God knows more than you do. God's ways are not ours. You will look wise. You run your nation, your family, your city, your state, your country, whatever, according to this, and it'll be amazing. The blessings that come, the problems essentially that would go away if we would follow this. So that's where I brought up even if you don't completely understand, you do it, but you seek to understand. But just because you understand it doesn't negate it then. All right, now I'm going to have you just read verse 9 and verse 12.
But watch out. Be careful never to forget what you yourself have seen. Do not let these memories escape from your mind as long as you live, and be sure to pass them on to your children and grandchildren. And verse 12, and the Lord spoke to you from the heart of the fire. You heard the sound of his words, but didn't see his form. There was only a voice.
All right, so with this, you have experience. Israel, you are not just making this based on speculation, based on hearsay. You have experienced for yourself. And even though if this generation wasn't completely there, The parents are supposed to be teaching to the kids. This is what we saw. This is what happened. It's not just a, hey, have faith that has to do with thoughts and thinking and beliefs. It's action. And Jewish faith is based primarily on experience. That's what Moses keeps taking them back to. You have experienced this. You have seen the goodness of the Lord. You have experienced the consequences when you haven't obeyed. So Deuteronomy keeps coming back to obedience is an action. We're going to see it.
You know, it's interesting, and I think I remember this from years ago when I studied it. The Lord spoke to you from the heart of the fire. You heard the sound of his words, but didn't see his form. Moses is catching on something that every generation can now go back to. Mm-hmm. We can't see God's form, but we can hear his voice when we read that story. Mm-hmm. So every generation he is speaking to through this. It's not that you saw God, it's that you heard him.
Right.
When have you heard him? Go back and reread the text and you'll hear him again. Mm-hmm. And so that's something even to this day we can grab onto. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it, but I can hear it.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't see it either. That's where you go, that first generation isn't, oh, well, they were lucky.
Right.
They saw God. No, they didn't. They saw fire.
Right.
And they saw fire and they heard the voice. They heard the trumpets. And you go, okay, I can hear that too. And so you just go, okay, in general, the Torah favors the ear over the eye. Think about what caused Eve issues.
The ear and the eye.
She saw.
I was thinking the serpent spoke, but she saw.
She saw that it looked good. And rather than trusting the ear that said you're not supposed to, from Adam or from God himself, because the eye is easily distracted and often leads people astray. The ear has the power to tune us in deeper to reality than that which is visible.
Because what we can hear through scripture,
it's harder to live it out sometimes.
Than what we see.
I don't always see the blessings and the promises.
I don't see God.
I don't see where he's working here.
But I can hear him in this word.
And so there's so much in this chapter that it's like, okay, if I can remember these truths, that will help me. So now if you read verse, let me see. I just want to point out, I'm not going to have you read it. I'll have you read it. Verse 13.
He proclaimed his covenant, the 10 commandments, which he commanded you to keep, which he wrote on 2 stone tablets.
Okay, so we haven't really talked about a covenant yet. So a covenant is a contract in which both parties have obligations to one another. The Hebrew term for covenant is berit, which has, according to the Jewish Publication Society, has 3 ideas, three meanings based on the idea of obligation. It's like a promise. It's an obligation imposed to oneself. It's a stipulation where your obligation is imposed on another. Or it's a compact. It's reciprocal obligations accepted by 2 parties. So each little bit different, each one. And according to the JPS, you have all 3 meanings here in this formal relationship between God and Israel. It's a covenant, like a compact, that consists of stipulations imposed by God upon Israel. But Israel promises to obey those stipulations, and God promises to reward Israel. So in that, we haven't really talked about a covenant, but that's what's essentially happening here in Deuteronomy. It is written like other ancient Near Eastern covenants using these same ideas. So I just wanted a real quick definition. All right, now if you will read 15 through 20, please.
But be very careful. You did not see the Lord's form on the day he spoke to you from the heart of the fire, Mount Sinai. So do not corrupt yourselves by making an idol in any form, whether of a man or a woman, an animal on the ground, a bird in the sky, small animal that scurries along the ground, or a fish in the deepest sea. And when you look up into the sky, see the sun, the moon, the stars, all the forces of heaven, don't be seduced into worshiping them. The Lord your God gave them to all the peoples of the earth. Remember, the Lord rescued you from the iron smelting furnace of Egypt in order to make you his very own people, his special possession, which is what you are today.
Okay, so as you look at those verses, you see carved images. You see any likeness of any animal on earth. or winged birds, or things that creep on the ground, or fish, or you go to the heavens and the sun, the moon, the stars. Does that list right there
Cover everything?
sound familiar?
Genesis 1.
Yes.
Is what it
In
reminds
a
me
way, you have creation being brought up again. Do you have a connection going back to the Garden of Eden? You have man, which would be day 6, birds and beasts, day 5 and 6, fish, day 5, the sun, the moon, the stars, day 4. The idea is this is for everyone. This includes everything. This is for all nations, according to verse 19. Because God, where does it say that? You will be drawn away and bow down to them, things that the Lord your God has allotted to these peoples under the earth.
Where is that? What verse is that?
Verse 19, be wary lest you raise your eyes to the heavens. This is not just...
This isn't for Israel. This is for everybody.
Yes. And now, so then verse 20 begins where it's going to be you contrasting against the other nations.
Because Israel is his special possession today.
All right. So now will you read 22 and through 24?
You will cross the Jordan to occupy the land, but I will not. Instead, I will die here on the east side of the river. So be careful not to break the covenant the Lord your God has made with you. Do not make idols of any shape or form, for the Lord your God has forbidden this. The Lord your God is a devouring fire. He is a jealous God.
All right. So again, we have Moses reminding them, I'm not going with you. But also, let me look. I moved my notes too far. You have these twin themes in Deuteronomy. You have covenant and idolatry. You bring up again the image of fire that they had, and it links now that fire to God's jealousy.
Can we explain jealousy a bit? Talk about that just a quick.
Yes. In verse 24, the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. And jealous would maybe zealous would be impassioned, might be easier.
Well, I know in college it was explained to me that even today in America, we don't understand the difference between envy and jealousy.
Right.
So you are envious of what belongs to someone else. God says, do not envy, but you are jealous over what belongs to you. So I am envious of a different woman's husband, and that's a sin. But when I am jealous for my husband's attention, that's not a sin. I can be jealous. I don't want my husband kissing another woman. I don't want him holding another woman's hands or telling I love you to another woman, like unless it's a family member type thing. But so jealousy is not a sin because you are jealous over what belongs to you and what is rightfully yours. Mm-hmm. Envy is the sin.
Mm-hmm. That's a good...
And we mix those up.
Right. We put them together.
Yeah.
Okay. But what you have here is that image of God being fire. Because truthfully, if you see your husband doing that with someone else,
I would be...
there would be some fire.
I would be hot.
Which is good. You want that. And that's what, I mean, because you see that image then in Hosea of God is the spouse who's been betrayed. So you go, okay, we see why God is jealous, why it's a healthy jealousy and a good jealousy. But you're going to see that coming up again later as Moses keeps going, don't forget. Remember the idol we had an issue with back then? Don't do that going into the land. Because Moses is going to say, when you follow after, in verses 25 through 31, I'm not going to have you read it. When you follow after those idols, here's what's going to happen. You get a warning about God's fiery, destructive power. Because sadly, as time goes on, people's memories fade. We forget what God did. We forget what we were supposed to do, what we promised to do, and the comforts of the promised land. You're no longer living moment by moment, day by day, trusting God for the food, for the water. They're now in the land where they potentially have crops and cattle. And so it's easy to depend on yourself rather than God. And Moses says, when you forget and when your memory fades, here's what's going to happen. Because the land and all the blessings depends on your obedience. And when you don't obey, the punishments are almost in a way the precise opposite of God's blessings and God's promises. Instead of possessing the land, you're going to be exiled. Instead of being numerous, you're going to be few. And as you read those 26 through 28 specifically, read like the curses of a covenant. And in the ancient Near Eastern covenants, normally gods were the witnesses. Well, look at 26. I will have you read 26 through 28.
Today I call on heaven and earth as witnesses against you. If you break my covenant, you will quickly disappear from the land you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. You will live there only a short time. Then you will be utterly destroyed. For the Lord will scatter you among the nations where only a few of you will survive. There in a foreign land, you will worship idols made from wood and stone, gods that neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell.
I mean, you just go, they gave up God who was actively taking care of them. We talked 2 weeks ago of how he went before them looking for places for them to rest. And they give it up for gods who are lifeless.
Yeah, but don't we? I mean,
Yes, that's...
you struggle to fast because I want that piece of chocolate rather than that moment with God.
Right.
Like, isn't that just as pathetic?
I'd rather sleep in than go to church this morning.
Yeah.
I'd rather sleep in than get up and have my quiet time.
I'd rather watch my Netflix than go to bed so I can get up in the morning.
Right. But I also like, because Moses will do this a couple times too. Heaven and earth are the witness. And we've talked about that in podcasts with your husband, of the mountains are older than anybody. And so those are the witnesses to what's been going on. And we talked about in that first week, Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, that they can see. Remember, those are the witnesses to what you promised. I mean, God is so gracious in that he gives us constant reminders. It's not like God said, okay, here you go. Good luck. I hope you remember. No, I mean, you have 7 days of creation. Why do we have a Sabbath rest? Every month you have reminders with the festival, or not the festivals months, but that's every year you have the festivals. Every day when you're eating food, you have these reminders of what you promised and what God has done. All right. Because as we get into 29 through 31, they're going to remind Israel that the punishment, though, will not be permanent.
Amen.
Because it's inherent in God's covenant with the patriarchs. You have two covenants going on here. God's relationship with Israel is embedded in two covenants. You have the Abrahamic covenant. God told Abraham, your descendants will possess this land. And because Abraham was faithful to the covenant, when Abraham died, that covenant just became standing, etched in stone forever. So when the Mosaic comes along, it is not dependent upon the Abrahamic covenant in the sense of, oh, they can undo the Abrahamic covenant. You can't. Abraham's seed forever has the land. The Mosaic covenant, they can mess it up, and with it, there will be consequences. But just because they mess up the Mosaic covenant, Abrahamic covenant complete, there's nothing they can do. Which is interesting because I do want to bring this up, and I'm going to read this out of my commentary. The main feature of the covenant in which God's commitment to the patriarchs concerns their descendants. This covenant is modeled on ancient Near Eastern covenants in which a king grants land or some other gift to the servant in recognition for loyal service. Several such grants provide the gifts given should be passed on to the grantee's descendants in perpetuity. Even if one of the descendants should commit offense against the king, only the offender would be punished. The grant itself would never be taken away from the grantee's descendants. And so if you go, you had ancient kings who did that, how much more then will God do it? So I want to read this last part out of order because I want us to have some time with these last few verses. But verses 41 to 49, kind of Moses is just summarizing everything he said. It's almost like we're going to talk about cities of refuge. We'll get into that in a little bit later in the book. He's going to introduce, here's what he just goes over again. We've had some battles. We've had some victories. Here's what's happening. But I do want to have time to read 32 to 40.
You want me to read?
Yes,
32.
please.
Okay. Now search all of history from the time God created people on the earth until now, and search from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything as great as this ever been seen or heard before? Has any nation ever heard the voice of God speaking from fire as you did and survived? Has any other God dared to take a nation for himself out of another nation by means of trials, miraculous signs, wonder, war, strong hand, powerful arm, and terrifying acts? Yet this is what the Lord your God did for you in Egypt right before your eyes. He showed you these things so you would know the Lord is God and there is no other. He let you hear his voice from heaven so he could instruct you. He let you see his great fire here on earth so he could speak to you from it. Because he loved your ancestors, he chose to bless their descendants, and he personally brought you out of Egypt with a great display of power. He drove out nations far greater than you so he could bring you in and give you as their land, as your special possession, as it is today. So remember this and keep it firmly in mind. The Lord is God, both in heaven and on earth, and there is no other. If you obey all the decrees, commands I am giving you today, all will be well with you and your children. I'm giving you these instructions so you will enjoy a long life in the land the Lord your God is giving you for all time.
To me, I just hear Moses' passion in that. Mm-hmm. Do you get how amazing this is? Mm-hmm. I mean, go back to that very first week where we talked about Moses and this group of people are doing this project. And Moses like, it's going to be amazing if we can just finish it. And that's what I feel like he's saying here of comparing whether such a great thing has ever happened or was even heard of. I mean, I just see Moses going, this is incredible. You heard God speaking out of the fire and you lived. I mean, that alone of you people heard his voice and you're still alive. I mean, so how much more power does God's voice take on then? When you go, you're hearing it. What other God has attempted to take a nation with these trials and signs and wonders by a mighty arm and by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm? I mean, if you look at Egyptian hieroglyphics, the king always has that outstretched arm. That's a powerful symbol in that culture. And you go, Moses is tapping into that. Okay, if you thought the Egyptian gods and kings and pharaohs were powerful, how much more have they ever done anything like this? And he did it before your eyes. I mean, there's no one else beside him. Out of heaven, you heard his voice. On earth, he let you see his fire. He says that again. He loved you. Is your fathers and he loved your fathers. He chose them. He says it again. He brought them out of Egypt by his great power. And then now he's driving out the nations, and not just any nations, but nations that are greater and mightier than you to give you this land. I mean, I just hear Moses going, get this picture. This is incredible. God is the hero of this story, and you all need to realize you get to be a part of it.
Amen.
And don't mess it up. I mean, I love verse 39. Know therefore today, lay it to your heart. I mean, to me, that's just impress it on your heart. Get it in you that the Lord is God in heaven above and on the earth beneath, and there is no other. You are going to see other gods. You are going to go conquering other nations that have other gods, but you got to realize you are with the one true God, and there's no one that compares. And just therefore, because if you keep his statute, if you keep his commands, it's going to go well for you and your children. And your children after you. How much do you go, you know what, God, I don't want my children to suffer. I want my children to be blessed. I want my children to have an easy life. You know, ideally, that's what I want.
Right.
I realize that without the hardships, then they don't need God. But if God, they could just figure out a way to obey you and have an easy life, that would be incredible. And Moses said, and you're going to prolong your days in the land God has given you for all time. I hear so much passion in Moses of this is it. This is the choice. It's up to you. You can do it because with God, anything's possible. And so to me, I mean, this whole chapter just keeps building on Moses going, obey, obey, obey.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, I could see why you can say Deuteronomy chapter 4 is the heart of the book. Because what we're going to start to get into then is some of these, and setting up for some of these laws and what's going to happen. And then in that you go, okay, God makes it so obvious, so clear. Here's what you need to do. The blessing, the rewards, the benefits are all yours. The choice is yours. And don't we do that with our own kids? Look, I'm leaving. Here's what I expect. When I come back, if everything's done, great. You can go hang out with your friends. If I come back and this isn't done, here's the consequences.
Right.
And yet even giving my children something as simple as just clean up your room while I'm gone for 30 minutes.
Still doesn't always happen.
No.
But I do the same thing with God.
Yes.
So
it's just that, okay, if we can go, this is where we are. Mm-hmm. God, the choice is ours. Help me to be obedient.
And I think that's something we often forget. Mm-hmm. We have a choice. God is a good and faithful God. Mm-hmm. So choose.
Yes, choose life. Choose life. That's how we're going to end today.
Choose life.
The choice is yours.
Right.
So let us know what you've been enjoying in Deuteronomy so far, and come back next week, because to me it's super exciting and I've got more to share.
Goodbye.